my big question is, as great as Cincinnati is, and they are the rightful favorite this year, it's, to me, what are you getting out of Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore offense with a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken, who came in his introductory press conference, said all sorts of very aggressive things that would make bettors' mouths water, like we want to go empty a ton with Jackson, we want to throw the ball downfield much more. How potent do you believe this Raven offense actually will end up looking in 2023?
Well, the concern I have about the Ravens offense is when you go from a run-based offense to a spread it out, we're going to wing it all over the place, do you have the offensive line to pass protect, to handle that? You know, Ronnie Stanley is one of their highest paid players on their cap. He has a hard time staying healthy. And Morgan Moses is over 30 years old. He has a hard time staying healthy. Kevin Zeitler's over 30 years old. Are they going to be good enough in the offensive line to wing the ball around, you know? And will they not turn the ball over? Will they play to their defense? So, to me, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Yes, they need to be more explosive. Yes, they need to run the ball. But they need to throw the ball. But this is really a run-based team that could utilize more play action, more explosive plays. And how that all manifests itself will be interesting to see. So, you know, and then my question is on them too, Ben, besides the offensive, are they really good enough on defense? Are they really good enough on defense? I'm not sure about that. You know, I think they're good on defense. I don't think they're we have this reputation for being this elite defense, right? And part of that being the elite defense is they run the ball, they slow the game down, they kind of control the pace. Are they really an elite defense? I don't know. I don't think they are. I think they will struggle.
And I'm glad you used the word pace, because you look at how the offense set up last year and thinking about an aging offensive line that has struggled with health over the past couple seasons. They were a very slow-paced offense last year. They ended up with the third most delay of game penalties in the league. They had 8 of those. They averaged a play every 41.8 seconds of real time, 4th slowest rate in the league. So that's why I wonder, it's not just what the offense looks like under a new OC and Todd Monken, but if they are going as up-tempo as he has said in every single media availability so far, how does that change the entire dynamic of that team? Does that expose the defensive weaknesses you talk about, Michael? Does that make their offense all that more explosive? That's what I think is just so fascinating, because all the things we're hearing and reading is that you're going to see a much more open look, downfield passing, like run and gun, let's go quick tempo. And will that take, I would have to think, right, that's going to take time to at least get into a cohesive manner. And those first couple weeks, it might be a little shaky, to say the least, there for how Baltimore looks with such an exotic change and being so different than what their identity has been.
Right, and so are they good enough on defense to kind of keep them in that? You know, I think that's the question. Their corner situation. Look, Marlon Humphrey's a really good player, but he's a better slot corner than he is an outside corner. You know, so Yasin, the kid that they signed, who was a first-round pick, a second-round pick of the Colts, who was in Las Vegas last year, you know, that's not going to be pretty if he's got to play one-on-one, man-to-man. That's a struggle. Brandon Stevens, can he play one-on-one? You know, Kyle Hamilton's not a safety. He's really a sub-backer, even though whatever Pro Football Focus gave him as a grade, I mean, he's a sub-backer. He's not a safety. He's never played in the middle of the field. So are they good enough on defense? I think that's the question. Where do they get the pressure? Yes, Roquan Smith's a good player. I don't doubt that. Bowser's a good player. They have some good players, but for the most part, to me, I think that's the question. I put it in the guide, Ben, and I just think, to me, and I worry about their analytical approach. I worry about their decision-making. But I think the Browns are the most talented team and should rise to this, assuming Watson can play better. I mean, the most fascinating thing I've seen in my 5 years working at VSiN is that Deshaun Watson is 30-1 to win the MVP in the league, and Trey Lance, who's not even the starting quarterback, is 25-1.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that is as wild as it gets from an odd standpoint. Because you have the Browns and Ravens each set with the same win total, 9.5. Ravens are your second favorite, Browns third, Steelers fourth in that AFC North. Just the last quick thing I wanted to bring up on the Ravens front, because saw this quote from Lamar Jackson. Now I'm as much of an optimist as anybody. I root for human achievement. Lamar Jackson came out, Michael, and said, "I want to throw for 6,000 yards this season." He's never thrown for over 3,300. What delusional world is he living in? Even if it is an up-tempo, fire the ball downfield offense, that's crazy to me.
Look, that just shows you there's no realism. I mean, it's just okay. You know, how's that going to happen? And, to me, that's just a commentary on really no one knowing.
Basically. APA, you want to put that in perspective, what the actual season-long passing total prop is? If you want to bet that, 3,500.5 for Lamar Jackson. Yeah. And the over is plus money. You get plus money to take that over. Just gives you an idea. But, yeah, on the Cleveland front, you think about a team that has – you mentioned some of the coaching decisions from Kevin Stefanski has baffled a lot of decision makers with his decision processes late in games. But what has to happen aside from Deshaun Watson returning to his prior top form when he was in Houston? What else do you see having is the really focal point if Cleveland is going to make a rise and end up at least being a very, very legitimate contender to a preseason favorite in Cincinnati in that division?
Well, I think more than anything, they got to win close games. I mean, they had no ability to win close games. I mean, the opening of the season they did. They beat Cleveland. They beat Carolina in a close game. They come and they lose the Jet game. They have a huge lead on the Jets. They give up 14 points in the last 2 minutes of the game. They lose a 2-point game to the Chargers. They lose a 3-point game to the Ravens. They come back and then they can't kind of find a way to win close games. And that's the big issue. And a lot of it is their own doing. That Cincinnati game, the New Orleans game, they lose 17. They had no business losing in New Orleans at that time of the year. They lose to Pittsburgh 28-14 at the end of the year. So to me, it starts with winning close games, right? And that's what started their season off. They lose to Atlanta on a field goal at the end of the game. The Chargers the same way. And until they get that situated, it's going to be really challenging. So, but I think they'll be better defensively, especially rushing the passer. I think Myles Garrett will have a very good season with Za'Darius Smith on the other side. I think they'll play run defense much better. Last year they were sporadic in their ability to play run defense. Sometimes it was good. Second half of the season, it kind of wasn't as good. The last 5 games of the season, they gave up over at least 130 yards rushing per game, when typically earlier in the year they did, but they had those meltdowns. I mean, they had these so inconsistent games. They gave up 202 yards rushing to Atlanta, and then the next week they gave up 238 to the Chargers, who don't even want to run the ball. Yep. So they got to fix those problems, Ben.
And if you think too, like that if they're able to solve those issues, think about what they have on offense. It's not necessarily just the Deshaun Watson piece, although of course you're expecting a return back to higher form from him. I don't know that people really appreciate what they have gotten. Just the explosiveness from Nick Chubb, his ability to rack up more yards than expected. You like to give me a hard time for my love of analytics, but I was doing some diving on the running back group this year in the NFL. Nick Chubb led all running backs last year in the rush yards over expected metric by this insanely wide margin, and we look at him as just this kind of between the tackles bruising guy. He's better than that. People need to start giving Nick Chubb much more credit.
Oh, I think Nick Chubb's great. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like him so much. I mean, I think Nick Chubb is great. He can do everything. I think he doesn't even do enough in the passing game. But, look, the bigger issue is if they don't slow down teams from running the ball, it's going to be an issue. And they're so inconsistent in everything they did. And last year, Watson was just not good enough offensively. I mean, let's face it, he could not throw the football. So they've got their work cut out for him. But I'm with you on Chubb. I love Chubb. I love their skill players. I mean, they should be better than the 18th team in the National Football League in points scored.
Yep, and you look at how it'll play out this year. They're up to 9.5 on the win total. About a coin flip to make or miss the playoffs. Misses a slight favorite at -120. The strength of schedule numbers, if you're going based on the opposing Vegas win totals for these teams in the division. Baltimore, hardest schedule, 21st. Cincinnati, 20th. Cleveland, 16th. And then Pittsburgh, who is your long shot. They do have the easiest schedule on the board by those win totals of 8th.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.